basically. That means our sins have been forgiven. There is no limits to where it's been forgiven. He's completely washed it away. It's buried at the bottom of the ocean. And that is what the Lord does for us. And see, why does he do this? We can't stand it if he kept all our sins recorded and, said, hey, dude, look, check this out. You got this many sins against you. If he said that to me, I would not be able to stand in front of his presence. I wouldn't be able to be here to worship him if he said, this is all of your sins. Look at what you've done wrong. Look at how many times you screwed me over. So at that moment, Psalm 103 quickly is one of my favorite songs. It's a beautiful song. I encourage you guys to go check it out when you guys get home. Just read it. It's a beautiful song. And so we see that he doesn't harbor his anger forever. He doesn't hold on to his anger. What does he do? He lets it go when he asks for forgiveness. But see, sometimes people take this for granted. Some people kind of get this confused. He may forgive us for our sins, but if we read Ecclesiastes 12 verse 14, I remember the first time I actually saw this verse was when Joel actually preached, and he used Ecclesiastes 12:13. So Ecclesiastes 12:14 just looked really interesting to me. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. And Paul says the same exact thing in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verses 10 through 15. I'll read from verse 12. If any man builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, his work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each man's work. If what he has built survives, he will receive his reward. If it is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but only as one escaping through the flames. See, what we got to understand in these two verses is that our sins, sure, they're forgiven, but your deeds, after you become saved, your deeds must reflect that of Christ. You can't just expect to go around living in your sinful life and not be counted against it. He is going to count our deeds against us. And just be sure that your good deeds aren't less than your bad deeds. Because see, if your bad deeds outweigh your good deeds, you're getting into heaven, you're just barely getting in. Okay, it's like, for example, many of us, we've taken classes sometimes. How many of you guys have actually passed a class with a 7? Don't worry. I'm in the same boat as you. See, just like that,
Just in class.
You didn't even pass my class. But just like that, 7, we barely, narrowly just make it into that passing one, right? How many? But yet we work so hard. We try to get an 8, right? We try to get the highest grade possible. We try to get 100. Just like that. That's how we must be in our walk with Christ. We can't expect to just narrowly meet the mark of getting into heaven. God gives us rewards for what we do. And when we do the things that we do, we must make sure we reflect the actions of Christ. Because what's the point of it, right? We can't be for our selfish self. We can't be for ourselves. You see, in verse 4, it says, "But with you there is forgiveness, therefore you are feared." Okay? He realizes there is forgiveness. It's even probably a sense of kind of, I wouldn't say bargaining, but he might just be, trying to sweet talk God a little bit. He's asking for his mercy, and he's saying, with you there is forgiveness, therefore you are feared, right? He knows that there is forgiveness with him. We know that there is forgiveness with him. And see, it says, therefore you are feared. It's not fear as we might think of it, of trembling, we're scared out of our pants, just like the Israelites were when they couldn't even look at Moses. They were too scared. They were too scared to be anywhere near the Mount Sinai when Moses would be talking to God. They wanted Moses, please, please. They literally begged him at one point to go speak to God for them, because they didn't want to stand in front of God. And see, just like that, that's not the kind of fear that this psalmist is talking about. The psalmist is talking about reverence. It's talking about respect. He knows that because the Lord has forgiven us, we revere Him, we respect Him. With our parents, for example, we love them. We're not scared of them, like I guess some might but at the same time, we fear them because we revere them. We know that they know what's best for us, that they care for us more than anything. And so, just like that, in going back to Psalm 103, verse 13, actually, there's a verse that says, the Lord has compassion on those who fear Him. What was it?
As a father has compassion on his children.
As a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion and pity for those who fear Him, right? And so, just the fact of our life, our parents have compassion on us. Our parents care for us. And just like that, the Lord cares for those that fear Him. That's how our lives are. And see, and so just based on that, we'll keep going. Verse 5. We're at verse 5. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits, and in His word I put my hope. In Ezekiel 37, verse 5 and 6, I found this very interesting. This is a really cool story. The Lord reveals to Ezekiel, and it's a really cool chapter. You should check that out too. This is what the sovereign Lord says to these bones: I will make breath enter you, and you will come to life. I will attach tendons to you, and make flesh come upon you, and cover you with skin. I will put breath in you, and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So there's two aspects here, right? There's first the Lord starts off saying, I will breathe. Let His full breath go into the bodies of the Israelites, right? What is breath? It is wind. It's when it's wind, it's also known as the Hebrew word for that is ruah. Ruah, when we translate that, turns into the spirit. And so when we look at it, the Spirit of the Lord, He is saying that He will breathe the Spirit of the Lord into these bones. And so when He does that, and then He goes on to talk about the body, right? Physical aspect of it too. So there's a spiritual aspect and there's a physical aspect to this passage. And so when we see that, that's kind of like what our soul is, That's what our soul is. It's a combination of physical and spiritual. We can't expect to think that our soul is like right here or something. That's our heart, not our soul. Our soul is that that encompasses us. And so here when He's saying, my soul waits, He is saying that completely submerged, fully waiting on the Lord. That He has submitted Himself, His mind, body, soul, and spirit, all to the Lord. And He is waiting upon Him to act. And see, it says, in His word I put my hope. See, also in that Ezekiel passage, it talks about hope. The people will have hope when the Lord comes in and breathes His breath into Him, attaches those tendons. And so hope is a big part of our lives. Where would we be without hope? Without hope, we wouldn't think about the better things of life. After such a tsunami and earthquake hits Japan, we don't think about. We see this world and we see everything socially degrading. There is calamities left and right. People are getting sick, but at the same time, we know what's coming for us. What the future holds is the Lord coming back to earth, and He will bring in His second coming, save us from all that, right? And so, in that essence, we see that we see our souls being fully has to wait for the Lord. Right? And so in verse 6, 5 and 6, these two verses were what really caught on this song. This in the song, in this psalm, and this is what really applied to my life. The Lord is telling me to wait, basically. And so it says, my soul waits for the Lord more than watchmen wait for the morning, more than watchmen waits for the morning. Yeah. Huh? The whole song was this. Go check that out. So, it's very unique in this verse, right? It says, more than watchmen waits for the morning, twice. Within one verse, it says that twice. You know, I don't think I've ever seen that in any other verse, in any other Bible passage where it says that twice. It's kind of unique, you know? It shows just how eagerly he waits for the Lord. You know, what is a watchman? See, in Psalm 127:1, it says, unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain, right? And so when the Lord is watching over the city, the watchmen stand guard in vain. So what is a watchman's job? To stand guard. Exactly. Thank you. And so the watchman, their responsibility is when everyone else is sleeping, to keep watch over the city, to make sure no intruders come in, the enemy does not come in. Because what does the enemy do? The enemy when's the most vulnerable time? It's at night, when people are asleep. And there's like what, a few people standing guard? Yeah, not much going on at that time. That's when the enemy wants to strike. But the watchman will alert the people if that is to happen. And they stand guard waiting for the morning, because you know at that time everyone's awake, there's less likely of a chance of an attack. And so in our lives, that applies to our lives too. What does the devil do? The devil stands prowling. The devil prowls like a roaring lion. And what we are told to do by Peter is we must stand guard, be alert. Because the devil is just doing that. In our lowest points, in our times of trials, in our pain, he is looking, oh, okay, maybe I can insert something into him right there. Maybe I can get him to fall even farther. Maybe I can get him to question God at that moment. See, the thing about that is, that's what the devil does. But you gotta understand something. The devil's bark is louder than his bite. See, the devil can play a lot of mind games with you. The devil can really just try to screw your head up, but he won't harm you. If God is for you, who can be against you? Huh? So just like the Lord stands for you, and just the Lord is watching over you, we must stand guard. We must be alert. We must keep our guard, even when we're in the lowest point in our life, even when we're feeling tempted and we're just going through pain and suffering. We must stand guard and make sure that the devil does not come after us, because the Lord is there with us. And so that passage